Askreddit asks, what's the scariest thing that happened to you when in someone else's house?
Age 6 to 8-ish. Slept over at a friend's house with my little brother. Her father woke us all up in the middle of the night. Had us bundle up, and loaded us in the family minivan. He drove to a gas station and talked the whole way about how a bakery exploded behind their house. He said the resulting gases and such could kill us. So we had to try and drive as far away as possible. They were also our next door neighbors. So I was worried about our parents' safety. At the gas station, our friend's mom bought us snacks while he canvassed the area. I told her I didn't hear any explosion and asked about my parents. She must have called them from a payphone during the snack run, because they pulled up a few minutes later to take us home. I was, of course, terrified to go home. Later, our parents Saturday us down to explain that our friend's father was sick with something called schizophrenia that makes him hallucinate. Edit. Thank you for my first silver. Closing parenthesis.
Sleepover at best friend's house when I was about 12. Middle of the night after we'd fallen asleep. He wakes up and starts screaming that his head is going to explode. Not a bad dream. He keeps going, just screaming and crying and thrashing around. His parents wake up, scoop him up, and rush him to the hospital. Turned out he'd just never had a headache before. And his first was apparently a doozy.
15. Me and 2 other friends was at a friend's house. Him and his brother were arguing, then his older brother beat the absolute shit out of him. I tried to step in, then he shoved me in the wall. Then their father stepped in and starting going ham on the older brother.
There's always a bigger fish.
I initially laughed but then realized how sad it is. Hopefully they are doing better now.
I was 14 or 15 and spent many weekends at my friend's house. One day we discovered that her mom's boyfriend has a hidden camera in her room. Under her desk. I was supposed to go on vacation with him and my mom told me she didn't feel comfortable with him. We found that camera a week later. Thanks mom! Exclamation mark.
What was on the camera?
Did anyone check to see if your friend didn't have anything inappropriate done to them? IMO. That would be the #1 priority.
Slept over at my friend's house one summer night during high school. Woke up to his mom calling out to him because his stepdad was unresponsive and passed away during the night. That's some shit timing. Cause of death?
The doctors weren't sure at first but came to the conclusion that it was a widowmaker heart attack.
I was probably 7. My friend lived down the street. Her mum had invited some girls to come hang out from our class and she made us sandwiches. Cookies, juice, popcorn, the normal girl day type of fun. We were in the garage playing. Her dad was either drunk or had an anger problem. He came in yelling at us, saying we were too loud. He grabbed my friend's mum by the arm and hit her. She started crying. Then, he grabbed my friend and spanked her. Alright, well he proceeded to grab each girl and spank them hard. I ran away as fast as I could back to my house. I remember my friend consistently coming to school being real tired. Sometimes falling asleep at her desk. Farah, I hope you're okay. Edit. She moved away soon after. No idea where she went. I did tell my parents. After that, I remember only being allowed to go to one friend's house. Any other time my mum would invite my friends to come to ours. Edit 2. I ran before he got to me. Still told my mum anyway. Edit 3. Yes, CPS was notified. I'm sure teachers were well aware of abuse before anyway.
Friend's dad showed me porn and asked me if I knew what a hard penis felt like. I was 10. Haven't told anyone I know IRL.
This shit is freaking me out. I've got 2 young daughters and always think my wife is over the top when she hesitates about play dates or whatever. This seems way too prevalent. At least my kids have learned what's weird and not, and to let us know if they're uncomfortable or have been uncomfortable.
That is horrible and I am sorry that happened to you.
Not technically in someone else's house. But I was babysitting a special needs 2-year-old. And the kid wanted to go play outside. No biggie. But since it was fall in Alaska, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too cold out. I stepped outside to check their thermometer. The door locked behind me. I had no phone. And since it was Alaska, the closest neighbor was too far away for me to leave the kid alone in the house to get help. So I ended up ramming into the door in a panic until the lock broke and I could get in. The kid was okay. Got in the laundry but otherwise had no idea anything was wrong. I thought I would get in trouble for breaking their door, but the mother said I could have broken a window and she wouldn't have cared. The mom paid me $50 for it, though, and that's a lot of money for a 12-year-old. Edit. To be clear, I didn't break the door itself. Just the lock. Their lock wasn't a standard deadbolt or anything. It was a gate latch that was opened by a hidden string on the outside. The door couldn't be unlocked because the string had wrapped around the locking bolt. So it would pull tighter the more it was pulled. I opened the door by slamming against it enough that the bolt bent and I could get my fingers in there to lift it. It took a good hour or two of bashing the door. They replaced it with a deadbolt the next day. And I was the 12-year-old. The kid was 2. And the mom was in her 30s. IDK. Sorry if that wasn't clear.
My cousin brings me to his friend's house. We all hang out in the basement. My cousin forgets his cigarettes and asks if I can grab them from his car outside. I think nothing of it. Go grab the cigs and start making my way back to the house. I walk in the house by myself when I run into the friend's dad. This guy's father, who I've never met, just looks me up and down and goes, "Who the fuck are you? Why are you in my house?" Quote. Mind you, we're in New Jersey and this is an Italian Guido family. So I'm basically getting yelled at by discount Tony Soprano. This guy's flipping out and I'm scared shitless. Until my cousin comes storming upstairs and clears everything up. All my cousin had to say was, "Frank, this is my cousin," and just like that. Crisis averted. Love you. New Jersey.
WHOODAFUCKAYOO.
Discount Tony Soprano is a fantastic term. Thank you for this.
Slept on a former friend's sofa. He decided to prank me by pretending to be a bugler wearing a ski mask. Then he pretended to try and kidnap me. Long story short, I broke his nose. And we are no longer friends.
What if he was actually trying to kidnap you but his plans were ruined, so he fell back on plan B? Haha, got you. This was a joke. I wasn't really going to sell your organs on the black market.
The bugler in a ski mask would be a hell of a wake-up call.
My best friend's dad was in the reserves and would come home late at night a lot. One time he had come home and we didn't notice. We were heading to the kitchen to go make bread and cheese and we froze in the hallway because we saw someone kneeling in front of the fireplace which wasn't lit. We proceed to freak the fuck out, which wakes Dad up and he comes out of his room laughing his ass off. Turns out he thought it would be funny to set his duffel bag up, wrap his coat around it, hat on top, boots in front, and it looked just like some dude chilling with his head on his knees. OL Clarky boy. I miss him. He was so much fun. Completely unrelated story with him is he bought a gold VW Golf and when he came home with it he burst in my friend's bedroom where we were watching Dragon Ball and yells, "I love Gould," and runs off. He was always doing crazy shit. Edit. Some people have asked for our bread and cheese recipe, so here ya go. Get some uncut sub rolls. Hollow them out. Stuff them with sharp cheddar. And then microwave them till they're gooey and melty. I am afraid to try it now that I am older. IDK if it'll make me shit my pants or constipate me for a week.
I was in high school and it was the first time I ever drank. I was asleep on the floor and my friend was asleep on the bed with her BF. It was late at night and the lights were off with the music playing. I'm a light sleeper, so the BF's drunk dad walked in and started peeing in the room. He didn't notice us there.
Hence always wear raincoats. You never know when one may come handy. Edit. Thanks for the 2 Reddit silvers.
One of my friends from childhood would have really bad night terrors. She would either wake up in the middle of the night screaming at the top of her lungs, or she would randomly jump up and start running for the front door trying to get away from whatever she thought was chasing her. It was always pretty terrifying waking up to her screaming or tripping over me while trying to get to the door. Ah geez. This was my childhood too. Only I was the one having the night terrors. I still have them from time to time and feel bad for my husband for having to deal with surprise nighttime ear screams. Lol.
Someone else's night terrors are properly horrific. I've only ever witnessed 2, but I was terrified for days. I house Saturday for my childhood crush when we were 12-ish as her family went on a 6-week road trip around the US. They had a cat and a bird, and you see where this is going. This stupid little finch got out of its cage, legit. The cage was closed when I returned the next day. And the cat killed it. I was obviously scared out of my mind of being the guy who killed Crush's bird, so I did the only logical thing and went to the pet store and bought both of the finches they had that looked identical. I had about 2 weeks to figure out which was more like the cat bait, and then, not knowing what to do with the other, I kept it. They never found out, or told me if they did. And that's the story of how I ended up with a pet finch. Edit for questions. House sitting was the wrong world. I went over every day to feed their animals, bring in the mail, etc. They live pretty close to me. Y'all are some sick fucks. We were 12. My mom had finches too. Hence why I was tasked to take care of this one. We just added it to the flock. The cage had slide-up doors for the food and water tray. I'm convinced that's how the bird got out.
I was 18 and my friend and I were alone at her house. Her parents were going through a nasty divorce and her dad, who had anger problems, was not allowed to come near the house because the mum had a restraining order. He ended up banging on the door and trying to break in since he knew the mum wasn't home. We hid in my friend's room with a samurai sword while she called her mum to come home.
While you were filing a restraining order, I was studying the blade.
Forgetting to ask for a towel prior to getting into the shower.
Oh god, you just dredged up a memory I have of sleeping at a friend's house when I was about 10. I was already in the shower when my friend came in and announced that her dad wanted a shower after me, and the towel I'd grabbed was the only clean towel, so her mum told her to take mine. I had to dry off with my dirty PJs.
The death sentence.
Naked and afraid.
When I was 12, a SWAT team busted through my best friend's house. Turns out her dad was wanted for smuggling drugs for the Mexican cartel. Fortunately, they hadn't seen him in several years. He's in prison now. Edit. Wow. People on the internet get mad. This happened 10+ years ago. Chill.
I'm disappointed in the SWAT's detective skills if he had not even been around in years. Don't they case the joint?
I was cat-sitting for some family friends. As I approached the house one evening, I noticed a light was on that hadn't been on that morning. I walked in the front door and yelled up the stairs, but didn't hear anything. There were small things that had been moved around, a knife on the counter and some trinkets, etc., but nothing was missing except the cat. It never came running for its food. I checked all the rooms but no sign of the kitty. I even checked the fridge, and noticed the pepperoni had been moved from the shelf to the drawer. Why did the cat burglar move the damn pepperoni? Exclamation mark. Question mark.
Why did the maid move the damn pepperoni? Exclamation mark. Question mark.
Cat burglar. Lol.
I was a freshman in college when I spent Christmas with my high school buddy who didn't go with his family out of town. I went to his kitchen to get a drink when I looked out his kitchen window and saw 2 figures jumping his fence. Luckily I saw them before turning on the light, so they didn't see me. I quietly told him to get ready to call the cops. When I saw them making their way to his door, without thinking I ran to the door and opened it and yelled, "LAPD, freeze," and luckily the 2 figures got scared and ran away. Thinking back on it, they sounded really young and they were probably just gonna ding-dong ditch the place or something. But to be safe I stayed with him until his family came home.
Plot twist. He lived in NY.
They're friendly, 80 pounds, dogs that don't bite, tried to tear me a new asshole.
The daycare my little sisters and I went to was down the street from our house. One day my then 2 or 3-year-old sister told my mum her private area hurt and that won't use the real name, but it was the daycare lady's husband, had put something in there and that it hurt really bad. My mum obviously took her straight to the doctor where they had came to the conclusion that she was definitely penetrated and the authorities needed to get involved immediately. Well before the ball could get rolling on that. The daycare lady had informed us that her husband had left town and had written a note talking about how he had done horrible things that he could never take back and how they would never see him again. Upon the police arriving, they had found child pornography. The guy was a photographer on the guy's private computer involving several kids from the daycare. About a day or two after all of this, local forest rangers reported finding a body in the woods by a camp area outside of town. They identified him as the husband with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. It gives me chills thinking about the horrible shit that was happening in that house while I was there. Edit. My little sister is doing amazing, by the way. She moved to Sokol for school and is working her way to becoming a hospitalist. She's an extremely strong person who graduated high school with a 4.4 GPA despite being homeless with my mum and bouncing around from couch to couch. She's an amazing person.
I was 11 and at my friend's house. His parents and all of his siblings were home. Everyone but his dad was in the front room of the house. His dad was doing yard work in the backyard. I got up to go to the bathroom, and while passing the back door saw that my friend's dad was on a ladder with an electric tree trimmer. Before I looked away and continued on, his dad fell off the top rung of the ladder and crashed hard on the ground. The tree trimmer was still somehow on and landed next to his body. The trimmer was going full horror movie and slowly moving towards him, and he was not getting up. I'm the only one who saw this happen. So I yelled, friend's mum, your dad fell, come quick, and ran outside to pick the trimmer up and move it away. By the time I turned it off and started focusing on him, everyone else was outside. We helped him up. The mum took him to the hospital for back pain and a mild concussion. The older siblings watched us while they were gone, and everyone was very thankful I had to pee. Edit. It was scary to me because I did not know what to do and acted on adrenaline and instinct. The fall was also pretty intense looking. I thought I saw a guy die. Trying to figure out how their shower works. Edit. Thanks for the silver.
Rented an Airbnb with some friends of mine in New Orleans. We all had separate bathrooms, but couldn't figure out how to turn on the showers. So, we just took baths and used the sink.
We have a device where you can set the temperature and then just turn the hot tap on. When I shower at someone else's house and find it impossible to find a comfortable temperature with their peasant fiddle with taps method.
About 14 years old, sleeping over at my friend's house. And in the middle of the night we heard some rustling around in her enclosed patio, which was adjacent to the living room we were sleeping in. We shrugged it off because she had 2 very active outdoor cats who generally slept in the patio. When we woke up the next morning and went out there to eat breakfast, we saw the screen door had been slashed and several pieces of furniture, TV, etc. were gone. So the rustling we heard in the middle of the night were actually burglars. Not sure if they knew that several teenage girls were in the living room. Good thing no one snored.
Not really. It's more likely they'd not robbed the place if they thought it was empty and then learned there was people in it. This happened when I was like 8. I went over to this girl's house. Really liked her. Her older brother told us about Bloody Mary, and she was ecstatic to try and summon her. So she asked me to come with her. And of course I said yeah. So we go in there. Turn off the lights. Shut the door. She starts chanting it, and the brother starts pounding on the door, screaming. When we tried to open the door, it was locked, and he kept pounding and screaming, "Oh God, she's got a knife, help." After like a while he finally let us out, laughing his ass off. Mirrors fucking scared the shit out of me until I was 16. And I am still wary of them to this day. Edit. He didn't lock it. He was leaning against the door or put something against it. I used the word locked to describe that it wouldn't open. Sorry about the confusion.
This was when I was really young, like 7 or 8, and it's one of those memories where I'm not sure if it was real. Or just a crazy dream. And it was too long ago to tell. But I'll tell it anyways. Was with a childhood friend at his house in the boonies. He lived in a real rundown house. But his neighbor down the road was pretty affluent, with a great house. He said he wanted to go exploring. And being a kid in the desert, I was down for that. He led us to the house, where he somehow convinced us to climb through the guy's doggy door into the house. Pretty great house. I still remember the layout vividly. Anyways, here we were, exploring some random guy's house, when we hear a door open. My friend had thought the owner wasn't home because the neighbor's car wasn't in the driveway. So he thought we were safe. We sprinted and hid behind separate leather couches in the guy's living room. He came out into the kitchen, wearing a bathrobe and nothing else, and got a glass of water. Reading a magazine. We watched him from behind the couches as he took his time and finally went back up the stairs. We sprinted out of that house and back to my friend's house. And I don't think Usain Bolt himself could have beaten my 7-year-old sprint. It was pretty scary then. But it's absolutely terrifying now to think what could have happened. TLDR, snuck into a random guy's house with a friend as a kid. Almost got caught. Will never break and enter again.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day you incredible people.